Okay, so we have fully and completely dried the last layer. So what I'm going to do now is take some water, apply it to my canvas, mostly in this top part. I want it fairly wet for this section. We are going to do some layers of paint, and we're going to do them all at once. So I want this to have a fair amount of water on it. This is good and dry. Now I'm going to be working with my Payne's Gray, my phthalo, and I'm also going to be working with pouring medium, and I'm going to be using this a little differently maybe than what you've seen, maybe not. And I'm also going to be using some titanium white. So I'm going to put a little water on my flat brush, and I'm going to put some of the pouring medium in my palette. And I'm going to apply this actually with my large flat brush that's already wet. I'm going to grab a little of that, and I'm going to apply that to the entire top and middle of my painting. That's where we're really going to be concentrating this. I'm going to get a little more water. We do want this fairly wet, not soaking, but not just a tiny bit. I'm applying water onto my brush like this and then laying it down. But you can apply however you like. All right, so we've got that wet, we've got pouring medium on there. Now what I'm going to do is take some titanium white, and I'm just going to put that on directly on my canvas. You can put it in a palette if you like, but I'm going to work with it like this. And we're just going to bring it onto my canvas with short, choppy brush strokes. A little bit more. I want a fairly good layer of this particular paint over that pouring medium and water. I want to bring it down, and I'm bringing it sort of just in these short brush strokes. You can use a little variance if you like that, but for this look I just kind of want to lay it down like that. Alright, so next thing, once I've got all of that fairly well covered, and you don't have to make it a super white, you want some of the blue underneath to show through. That's what gives it a lot of dimension in your artwork. All right, so for this, now that we've brought it down into that sort of center line here, I'm going to take some more of my pouring medium, and I put that in my palette. I'm going to add some water, a significant amount, and with a clean brush, mix that up. And I'm going to go ahead and put that kind of, flicking around, right in there. And you can actually pour that as it suggests. So that's fairly nice and wet in that layer. And add some right down here. We're going to bring it down into this area here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is put my paint on that section. Working first with my Payne's Gray. I actually want a little more than that. bringing that right in there in a very kind of just back and forth motion. You can apply more depth in certain areas. Kind of like what's going on in a couple of these. Be careful, this will splatter. I'm getting some splatters here that I'm gonna have to work on. And since it's so wet. Alright, so we've got a mix of the white and the blue right in here. Come back with my white brush real quick and just clean up a couple of those little splatters. You could leave them. This is called sea spray after all, and that has splatters. Now what I'm going to do is come in with some of my phthalo. Just drop that a couple spots just for some brightness in that blue, which gives it a very I think interesting look. And I'll bring a little more right here because this is going to be our focal point. And working with that pouring medium on there in the water is going to give you a little different look. It's going to be very fluid and flowy, but you're also going to be able to create some strokes. So bringing that white that we had from underneath, working into the center section here, just a little, tie it all together. And then just working with small brush strokes, bringing this down in here. We are going to get splatter if we get too crazy with our brush, so work small if you don't want splatter because it is very wet. Now working with a mop brush and bringing a dry fanned out mop brush into this, you can take this and create some expressive looks like this with your brush and all of the medium that is on there. So it does, you know, sort of resemble a sea spray. Now remember, once your brush gets fairly wet, it's just going to kind of deposit paint and it's not really going to do what you want it to do. So you've got to work kind of quickly, move that all around. You might have to grab another one, so it's always good to have a couple dry mops if you're working with mops. And, you know, finesse certain areas, because once a mop gets wet, it kind of stops doing what you want it to do, oddly. I think I'm going to just work on this a little to soften it. And since you've got that medium on there and you've got all the paint, you're able to kind of work that through nicely because it's very fluid. And then I'm going to put just a little, take my white brush, just what I had on there before, and deposit a little bit of that color down just to lighten right here in the very couple of sections that I just want a little more white dropped in. Alright, so that's a fairly quick painting to do technique. I like pretty much what I've got here, and by layering all of those with that pouring medium and the water, you're able to create this. Now I can't really tilt this for too long because all that wetness is going to drip, so you need to leave this just where you finish it or put it in a nice flat drying spot, and it really does need to dry for at least 24-48 hours to really cure, because you've got a fair amount of that medium and paint on there. And then when we're have it nice and dry, I'm going to come back and finish it.